Now that I've completed the Alice only 384 cards, I added Rock Eggs and I completed that. It's in a box. I'm done with that. I may do the PowerPoint updated with the 4 Rock Eggs, but I made some changes. I'm not sure if I'm going to have time to do that. But here is the other half, the other 384 cards. And I've already taken down and stored the cards from the other half. I'll play them some other time. I want to move on to other projects, so including this one and also some Pokemon for 2019. So here is how I build up the cube. In the case of the Alice one, I never did do that. I just showed the results and how I got the numbers. This one I'm going to have the time to show exactly how I build it up by theme. So I tried to have the same numbers. I either wanted to have either 20 or 10 for specific tribes, but that didn't work out because I wanted to have some familiar of Holy Winds. Tama in the Alice Elf deck is a little better, but this one's fine. And I wanted to put some moon dorks, and that kind of shifted around the number of elves that I have. Eventually, I think I'll build a PowerPoint with all the numbers, but I'm just showing you guys how. Look at that, different printings. I don't know which one is which. I just wanted to show you guys. Same here, different printings. I just wanted to show you guys how I go by layer, by layer of making sure I have tribal representation, because there are cards that favor a tribe, such as elves, and then just go down the tribes, and then go down themes, specific themes that I like, or specific cards that do specific things. Like I really wanted to have these familiars, and I really wanted to have the moon will dorks, okay? And I wanted to have 4 of them. All right, so also as a subtext for this specific video, I'm going to be showing the differences between the cards that were printed the very first go and the cards that were printed in the second print run. Now these are sleeved and there's some glare that's affecting how the cards look, but I can tell that this is the first printing and this is the second printing. All the second printing foils for CMF, TAT, and MPR have almost like a line. I mean, if you see it, there's like a line in the foiling, and you'll see it more in some other cards. And the ones from the original printing is sort of an overall effect. It never really, so in effect, actually, another way of saying it is the second printing, the foils are foilier, shinier. Okay, so that's the elf clump. I think I ended up, hold on, let me get my book with my notes, because I want to make sure that I describe how I do all the math. Okay, so for elves, I did, I think I ended up with a total of, I ended up with 25 elves. Okay, so 25 elves. I started with 20, but then as I mentioned, I really wanted familiars, and I really wanted the will dorks for moon, because I did put in the moon theme as I said I would. All right, so that's elves. Then also there's Thulus. I think this video is not going to be a single video just because there are so many cards. And by the way, at the end of the day, I think I have exactly 384 cards in here. And after I finish going through all the cards, I will put them by attribute and whether they are a normal spell or a resonator, and then do counts then, and make sure that I have my 384. I tried to go for 45 resonators and 30 non-resonators. But in some cases, it's a little off because I wanted to put in a little bit of regalia that I pulled from the TMS box and other regalia that I had laying around. And I also wanted to put in some multicolored cards. So these are my Thulus. I've got 3 of this guy. I was able to pull 2 of this card. Again, these are from my TMS pool. I was going to double this one up, but then I changed them around. Of course, Durga, which is pretty good. Oh yeah, there's the second one. And so I ended up with 20 Thulus. This card is pretty good from MOA. Millennium Outrageous has really good cards. It's just that it was overprinted. Then this card, of course, this guy replaces itself, which is pretty good. And again, the numbers could have been higher, but I could have had more of this card, and I have more of this card, but I mean, there's a really good selection of Thulus in these early sets for Grimm. I could use more of this card for maybe like a second round. Then I was going to have the Musketeers and the Card Soldiers. I was like, oh wow, I've always wanted to build a Musketeer deck, even though it's going to suck. But what wound up happening was that the Musketeers are also fairy tales, and that's a problem, because then my fairy tale count went through the roof. As a matter of fact, I still ended up with 40 fairy tales, and if I had not taken out the Musketeers, I would have had like 50. So, and then I picked more of the Darkness Card Soldiers because they're also nightmares, and I wanted to have a large number of nightmares just in case I want to change the cube a little later and favor nightmares in some way. Okay, then I have, okay, so those are, let me see if I can go through. Yeah, so the heart and this one, two of each one of these, right? 2 of these, and then 3 of each of spades, and I forget what this one's called. Don't know my card games, my regular card. Not a poker player, so I wouldn't know. 3 of each. Then 3 of this enabler that turns other cards into card soldiers and boosts. So it's an addition for resonators. And then the helper for card soldiers, it tutors them up, or allows you to put one of them for free casting. And you can also destroy Resonator by banishing 2 card soldiers. I'm not sure how useful this card is in a draft, and that's why I only put in 2. Okay. Then the fairy tales, of course, the fairy tales, and it's really fairy tale human. A lot of them are fairy tale human. I have the fun combo with, so those are the apples. Let's get the old lady. So they all bring each other out, sort of thing. Let me see. Let me read the cards as I go through. Piles are pretty big, and also they take up the whole table. So I'll have to figure out how to move these aside so I get more space for showing the cards. Okay, here we go. So there is this card, which is Little Red. So Little Red says, when this card enters your field, search your main deck for a card Granny. Also, you tap this, discard a card with Apple in its name. This card deals 1,000 damage to target Resonator. So you don't even have to play it. You just discard it, and it does what it does. Target Resonator you control gains plus 1,000 plus 0 until end of turn. At the end of the turn, destroy it. So it's got to be on a target Resonator you control, but I think it's a pretty good effect. I put in 4 of them, and then I put in 3 Grannies that get tutored up, and 3 of Little Red. Now the Granny is very interesting because the Granny, whenever a werewolf comes into play, swap the attack and defense of this card. So it becomes a 1200, 100. Becomes a pretty big bullet. So that was very interesting. Then me keep going through the fairy tales. Yeah, so again, CMF, TAT, MPR, none of these sets were created for this. And so creating a draftable cube with them requires a lot of work, which is fun. I've had a lot of fun doing this. I think I spent the better part of like 4 or 5 hours figuring out all these counts. So I've got a couple of the rare fairy tales. Got 3 of this dude. I've got 1 of Dorothy. Then of course, Gretel is here not because it is a fairy tale human, but because it'll boost your will. So it's a pretty good card. It's a great card, and I put in 5. Then I've got a Humpty Dumpty, just because I pulled it and it's cool. It's a cool card, not only just cool in artwork, but also what it does. I'm not going to read some of the cards. I'll make a PowerPoint for these cards. I'm just showing you guys how the process of how it's done. Put in another one of these guys, and then I put in 4 of my what would we call in Magic, my fairy tale anthem. All right, so it's an addition field. Fairy tales gain plus 200 plus 200. There are a couple of tribes or groups that get this sort of benefit in CMF, and I've got them all in here. In some cases, I just couldn't round up enough for 20. So in some cases, I did 10 and 2 of the anthem. In others, like fairy tales, I went all out. Okay, so this is a human. This guy is also a human, so this is for my human counts. For my humans, I also did 40. So fairy tales are not the dominant tribe. It's fairy tales and humans in this particular cube of 24 packs of 16 cards, 384 cards. Okay, so just showing you how I make my piles. So that's my fairy tale and human pile. Okay, then I also have were-rabbits, and in the case of were-rabbits, they get, I did round up 20, and I did put in 4 blue moons. Now sometimes when I can tell the difference between first printing and second printing, I'll just showcase them. Okay, so this one's a second printing, second. This looks like a first one. So I think these 3, see how it never does the line. See the line? There's the line, the vertical line going through the moon. This card does not do that. Okay, so these 3 are reprints, and this one's from the original printing. Okay, so those are your were-rabbits. Now, did I have? Oh yeah, I see where I put it. Okay, got it. So then, these are your 20 were-rabbits. 4 of this, 1 here of this guy. Could have put more of this one, which is a real good booster. This card gains plus 300 plus 300 for each other were-rabbit you control. You're in draft. These types of cards, even though they would be really good in a were-rabbit deck, are not that great here. I emphasize more, and then for these, they're a pair, and I put in 2 of each. Again, we're always balancing tribe, color, type of card, and whether it has a moon theme. So I put in 2 of each. One is aggro, this one, and one's got a fat butt. So this one gets plus 400 in the butt, and this one gets plus 400 as an aggro to attack. Okay, and then a playset of this 3-drop, which has a moon activate ability. Pay 2 moon. Target resonator's printed attack becomes 0 until end of turn. That's pretty good. And then I did pull 2 of the Swordsman. All right, and that's your secret rare were-rabbit. In the future, if I wanted to boost it up, I could boost up this one card and take other were-rabbits. I'm gonna find out what my balancing is like, what my will curve is like, which I have not done. Right now, in these selections, what I have is, am I covering the tribes? Do I have color balance, or what I would be called attribute balance? I'm going to stop right here with part one. I don't know how many videos it's going to take me to go through all these cards, but I just wanted somebody, if whoever's interested in the future with cubing for force of will, how I balance these 384 cards.